Have you been wanting to build a waterfall table such as this one? In this video, I'm going to show you my proven techniques of building this beautiful, heirloom quality waterfall table. I'm Steve Gaskins with Woodworking in South Carolina. Welcome to my shop. I'm thinking about using this slab. It has the better grain. I like the live edge. It's really pronounced on this slab. I think that would be a good feature. We want the back of the table square, so that lends to one problem. Here's the problem. It's too wide. I can widen this slab by using different sections of this slab and to find the right match. And this is okay right here. It's not bad. It has some green, some gray stain, and it's all along this slab. It has some spalting, and I have spalting along this slab. So that's not bad. I just have to take some time and look at it and find out really how I want to cut it. So it'll be somewhere around 24 inches, depending on where you measure for the live edge. After I've cut one edge square of my main board, I've looked at both edges of both sides of the board that I'm going to add to my main slab, and I like the grain. Some of the bug holes on both sides, I got a void there. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I'll probably cut it right at the void. I like how I have spalting on both boards. So I think this would be my best gray match. I've got my header piece added to the main slab. I've added 4 inches. That would give me an overall width around 22. And it would work real nice with the table leg. I really do like the way the grain matched turned out. I'm really happy with that. I spent a lot of time overlapping the main slab after I had one square edge. Just trying to get the right look, the right figure, the right coloration, the right amount of spalting. So I'm going to take my stirrup and I'm going to square one end. So the height of the leg of my waterfall section is going to be the height of this leg. It don't have to be real accurate. I'm going to leave me plenty of space to ensure I do not have a domino at the joint, and I'm going to work in for dominoes. I'm using Type Bond 3, is what I use most of the time. I like to put glue in my mortises because it does make a difference. I'm gluing both sides of the mortise. Now I have a little bit of a bow in it, so I've got to work that out. Okay, everything's glued up in the clamps. I'll let it cook overnight. Then tomorrow, I'll be running through my wide belt sander. Make sure everything's level before I lay out and cut the waterfall leg. It's been overnight, and I removed the clamps. I sanded my joint area. Looks real good. I've checked everything to make sure it's pretty flat. I do have a bow, so what I'm going to do is cut one end, which will be the foot of the waterfall, and then measure up for the foot height of the waterfall, cut it. And the reason for that, when I run it through my wide belt sander, I want to keep as much thickness as I can. Running a longer length board that has a bow through the wide belt sander would mean I would have to take more thickness away from the board. And I don't want to do that by cutting it basically 1/3 off, then it removes some of the bow from each side, meaning I would take less thickness from the sander to make it flat. I'm going to be using the flattening domino for the joinery. This was a part of a retirement present when I retired some years ago from the great guys at Frost Generating Station. Love and appreciate you guys. It's come in really good throughout the years. I'm going to be using 8mm dominoes, and if you're not familiar, basically, because I have the fence set on a 45, and I'm referencing off of a 45-degree angle, when I plunge, that's how it'll go in. It'll go in at a 45, so it would be a true 90 off of this surface. One of the functions of this domino, you can make a narrow mortise or a wide mortise. I normally make one side of my joint narrow, and what that means is whenever you cut the mortise, the domino will fit tightly within that mortise. On the wide setting, the mortise will be wider than the domino, and what that does is gives you a little room to play. As far as the height of the mortise is the same all the way through. Okay, I will measure out where I want to make my cut. I'm going to put a stop mark right there, and then I'm going to run each piece up to that mark and make the cut. Wow, I'm real close. It's been a good 48 hours since the glue up, so I'm going to unclamp it and let's see the result. You can see how the spalting lines up really well. This waterfall leg on the table, when I cut it a little bit long. So I'm going to mark out for the right height now. Now this flowy line leg has some adjusters on the feet. And I'm going to have an adjuster near each edge. Everything is aligned like I want. There's 4 holes on each end two in the center. So I'm going to use the two outside on each end and the two in the center. And I will also mark out the outline. Okay, I'm going to allow 1/4 of an inch on this side. I'm going to lay out 1/8 of an inch along the length. I have it rounded out and I've gone through and sanded. I have two more corners I need to square up with the chisel and mallet. Now I don't want to take all of this area at one time because it would take that line and push it back, and I don't want that. And I'm going to go up away from the line and take out some of this and work back to both lines. I will outline the slotted holes. Now I'm marking the center of the slot with my awl. That's where I will drill for my threaded inserts. Now instead of having a straight waterfall leg at the base, I want to add detail for two reasons. For aesthetics, I like the way the detail would look. But the other thing is for stability. Instead of having a real wide width leg for bearing support, I want to add two adjusters on each edge, and that will give me support. But not only that, I think it would look good adding the detail. So here's my pattern that I came up with. Now let me show you how it's going to work. Now I have a center line, and I'm going to take the center line of my pattern. I'm going to mark out the profile of the shape. Again, coming off center line. Most of the time, I come off center line with any of my designs, profiles, like I'm doing here. And very rarely do I use a full-size pattern. I use half of a pattern so I can flip it about center line to ensure that I get a very symmetric shape. And the reason why I didn't cut the profile before I put together the joinery is I wanted to have it together so I can measure my leg precisely. That's the reason why. Could I have done it a different way? Sure, I could have. And then I would have been able to cut this on the bandsaw. So I will drill the larger diameter first, switch the bit out, and drill for the threaded insert. And what that would do is making the larger diameter deep enough so the laminators can go all the way below the surface. I want to take the time to show you what I like to do with my finishing schedule. I sand up through 320 and I'm going to try many different finishes. Now normally I only try 1 to 2. So the question that we should all answer, the project that you're building, how will it be used? If I was building a dining table that's used daily, then I would need a very protective coating, and that's going to influence my decision. Whereas I probably would not choose shellac. I love shellac, I use it a lot. It has its place in my shop, always has. Does it give the best protection? No. For this video, but I'm going to section off and I'm going to apply a little bit of each finish. Probably 3 or 4 coats. That's what I normally do. To give me a good representation of what my table will look like after the finish is applied. In the event, maybe some that's watching this video don't know this, I came off with a wide belt, so I really didn't have any mill marks to say to really remove. But if you come off the joiner or the planer, you're going to have mill marks to remove. But here's what I want you to know. Whatever grit you start with, here I started with 120 because I was at 120 on the wide belt. Your first grit, whether it's 60, 80, whatever, is going to be the grit that does all the work. It's going to be the grit that removes all of the mill marks. Your progressive grit is removing the scratch marks or scratch pattern from the previous grit. So your first grit needs to be selected to the point that it can remove the mill marks, whatever that means. For one person, that might be starting off at 40 grit. For another person, they might start off at 80 grit, depending on what it takes to remove the mill marks. And it's important to pay close attention to the mill marks as they're being removed. After I'm completely finished with sanding, I would take an air nozzle and use compressed air to clean the surface very thoroughly before I apply finish. I don't want to have dust on the surface and have that dust go into the finish. If I don't use compressed air, and most of the time I do, I will vacuum. And I'm going to do something that I would normally not do. For instance, when I go to finish the table, I will pour out some of the finish into a container, and then I will take a paper towel and dip into the finish that I poured from the can. I wouldn't normally go to the can and then apply finish and go to the can. I would go to the container that I poured into The reason for that is, even though my surface is clean, when you rub the finish across the workpiece, you're going to pick up dust. And if you put that back into your can by working out of your can, you're actually little by little contaminating your finish. Here's how I apply finishes. On a film finish, varnish, varnish all blend. I don't want much of a film. I want the added protection that I talked about earlier, but I don't like the plastic look. I like more of the wood look, but I want to see the wood. So if you look at this Harmon seal, it has gloss. Personally, I don't like a gloss finish most of the time. So what I will do is I will apply 2, 3, maybe 4 coats of the gloss, and then I will apply 1 to 2 coats of the satin. Here's the reason for that. Semi-gloss, satin, those type finishes, they will have flatteners in them. All of them do, other than the gloss. And you know that when you look down into the can, if it's gloss, before you stir it, you can see the bottom of the can. Why? Because it doesn't have flatteners in it. It doesn't have anything to flatten out the finish. And by flattening out, you're putting flatteners on the surface to reflect light differently. That's how sheen, or some people call it, the shininess. That's how you tone the sheen down, by adding flatteners. There's different ways you can do it, but that's how it's done on the manufacturing side. So what I do, I start with a gloss. Whatever my final sheen that I'm looking for, I will end with that sheen. If I applied all the finishes of satin or matte or semi-gloss, then I'm going to muddy my finishes. I won't be able to see as clearly the wood grain. But that's how I apply mine. And maybe that'll help you with your finishing schedule in the event that you're just getting started. To help my finish lay out and to dry in a uniform fashion across the surface, normally I finish at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I specifically set the temperature at 68, maybe a day in advance, to get the workpiece at that temperature. And when I apply the finish, that it doesn't dry too quickly, and it has time to lay out. And I found that 68 is just a good number that has always worked for me. Okay, all the coats have been applied to my storyboard, and I've made a decision on which finish I'm going to use. The table will look better if it was a lighter color. So I'm going with the Sutherland Wells.